very warm welcome to everyone on behalf of the Department of Humanities. My name is Diana Cooper-Clark. I'm a professor in English and Humanities. And I don't want to say any more. I want to get to why we're here. But just before that, I'd like to introduce two people and Dean when he does get here. Avron Kulak, Professor Avron Kulak, is the undergraduate program director.
He's shy. No. Program coordinator.
He co-produced this with me, so thank you. And of course, the beloved chair of humanities, Paolucci. Okay, now our illustrious panel, 9 of them, or all of them but one, is an alumni. And they're all of them, with the exception of 3 alumni of this same department that you're in. So I'm going to get going. The first person is David Millan. David. Let me just introduce him briefly. David is a senior producer at the local radio news for the CBC.
Oh, good for you.
Should I stay seated?
You're setting a precedent.
Yeah, I
here.
better not set a precedent. No, I'm going to stay seated. But. As said, I'm David Millan. I graduated York in '93, so I'm going on 20 years now since I was in school here. I was an English major and humanities minor. I'm currently senior producer of CBC Radio News Toronto. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my path from there to here. I didn't really have a set plan leaving school. I think I was in the same boat a lot of you of trying to figure out where. Is it turned on?
Yeah. Should be. You can test it.
Test. No level? Oh, that's a test. Okay. Much better. Okay. Yes, exactly.
Good thing the radio announcer first.
So, as I was saying, I'm going to talk a little bit about my path from there to here. I didn't have a set plan leaving school. I wasn't quite sure where I was going to end up. I knew I wanted to get into something creative, perhaps involving writing. I ended up taking a year off school. I did end up returning to school for a community college 2-year certificate in journalism. From there, I started freelance writing while in school for community papers, did a bit of community television, got my foot in the door at the lowest rung at CBC, being an editorial assistant, which involves delivering a lot of paper and answering a lot of telephones. I was an associate producer at CBC News Network next. I spent about 12 years in television before jumping over to radio. And I've done basically every role you can think of in a newsroom other than being on air. Now I write, I make calls on stories myself, I select what makes it into our newscasts, I guide editorial direction, and I manage a news team. What I would say is the greatest thing about the job I do is that I get to learn something new every day, which not many jobs you do get that opportunity, but somewhere in the world there's an event, a fact, I get to hear a story, I learn something new. And that in a lot of ways ties me back to where we started here, which is I was always looking for something that would continue to spark creativity and learn something new every day. There's a few things, I think a lot of people do wonder about what transferable skills. You may feel like, how do I get to become a producer from what seems like skills that aren't necessarily, don't transfer? Well, a lot of them do. I think I learned a few things at York. A sense of history and a sense of the history of ideas is very important in the news department. Being able to make connections when stories come up from all over, being able to put them into sort of a historical context in my mind, even if it's only a little bit of background information, only something I dimly remember learning about, really makes a difference. It puts me one step forward in being able to connect stories and make events make sense. I was just thinking about with the Pope quitting just the other day in our coverage of that, and it made me flash back to a religion course I did 20 years ago and reading St. Augustine. didn't make it into the copy I wrote, but it certainly informed a little bit about some of the decisions I made in terms of telling that story. Secondly, critical thinking and theory. Certainly knowing a little bit of philosophy about writers who shaped modern thinking, ideas about propaganda, all fit into what I do as a journalist today. I have to admit I've forgotten an awful lot about what I learned at university 20 years ago. I couldn't tell you many details about a postmodernism course or semiotics course I took back then, but I can tell you that it does inform my thinking now and does inform my career. And I would say the third and possibly biggest thing that's affected in working forward into my career was learning to write, having the basics of writing, having ways of organizing my thoughts, how to tell a story, because in the end, in news, it's all about writing and telling stories. We may be dealing with true facts, but what we're trying to do is still organize a story in such a way that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it makes sense. What's the best way to tell that to a listener, to someone seeing it on television? And that started here. Also, learning how to learn, how to search for information, how to check facts. Some of that I learned in journalism school, but a lot of basic critical thinking all started here. My advice for leaving school, I'll keep it quick because I know we've only got about 5 minutes for each of us, but in getting into journalism, look for opportunities to write. Online journals, blogs, opinion, community reporting, anything that gets you out there and working on your writing skills and keeping at it. Also making contacts out there. A lot of it won't be paid. A lot of it may seem a long ways from where you want to go, but that is the single skill you have to work on the most and the single most important thing. To get into broadcasting, look for chances to intern, volunteer in broadcast. You know, what you have already is a big step towards what you need in terms of critical thinking and writing, but what you need to learn is the basic technical skills that get you into journalism. You know, I'm not going to lie and say that more schooling isn't necessary. A place like CBC, they often are looking at people who also have journalism degrees in addition to their BA or undergraduate degree. There are 1 or 2 year programs out there now that you don't have to go back and start over to go back to journalism school. And again, if you get enough experience in other areas and other places, you may have an opportunity to get your foot in the door at some place like CBC as well. People talk about my business in particular, talk about shrinking newsrooms, say there's not many opportunities there now. They talk about radio, which I'm in, and say it's dying, and almost the same for certainly print, they say the same thing. But journalism jobs aren't going to disappear. People still need to know what's going on. They may change. New media is exploding, both at CBC and everywhere else. And the old media is not going to disappear. There's still going to be people listening to radio for many, many years. There's still going to be people going to all the old media. And there's also the same skills are transferable. If you're a good journalist, you can be a good journalist in any newsroom, not just a TV or a radio. Certainly that's been my experience. I'm going to cut it there because I think I've spoken for almost 5 minutes. So.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to have a chance to mingle and talk one-on-one, and we'll have brochures and questions and so on, okay? Let's just hear everybody. But before that, I would like to introduce the Dean of our faculty, Dr. Martin Singer.
Is that microphone on?
This one is.
Okay, great. Okay, Welcome, everyone. Dear graduates, alumni, alumni. I'm Martin Singer, and I confess I'm a humanities graduate. And probably like everyone else here, either I'm doing a completely different job from what I was trained for, or I've somehow or other applied my own humanities background to a job that's much expanded. I received my training in Chinese history at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and somehow or other I've ended up being a dean, which involves fundraising, which they don't teach you about in history programs, alumni outreach, which they don't teach you about, faculty recruitment, budget balance. We never talked about money the entire time I was in graduate school, except the lack of it, and other such issues. And yet, I've always felt that I had a terrific training in the humanities for what I ended up doing. And that's because I think that what I learned was a combination of critical thinking, appreciation and respect for texts, the importance of people and the human factor in relations with others, the importance of every single relationship that I had with students and professors, the dialogue of seminars and learning to disagree with people collegially, all of which came out of my history seminars where we sometimes got very excited, but we all went out for a beer afterwards. And all of those things, I think, have stood me in good stead. One of the most delightful parts of my job as dean, I have 4 really delightful, or maybe 5 delightful tasks. Greeting students on their first day on campus. So for the students here, I may have greeted you when you first arrived in that first, if you can remember that traumatic experience of your first semester on campus. Saying goodbye to you, which hopefully I haven't done for any of you, as you convocate on that last day in June. Recruiting new faculty, which I've been doing a lot of in the last few weeks, including today. Going to award ceremonies that we have, and finally, meeting our graduates. You know, and as we said at another event yesterday, which was particularly embarrassing for our humanities chair, who I will not embarrass again, he's grateful. People of very high stature in very different places credit us, and in this particular case, the chair of our department, with having had a major influence on their career, which in this particular case was on the bench, and really didn't have a direct relationship to the humanities course that he took at all. And I say to all of you graduates who are sitting here at the table, all of you alumni and alumni, that I am grateful to you for doing what we need our alumni to do, which is extend a hand to the next generation. You know, I have 4 children myself, all of whom at one point or another have needed a professional hand somewhere, and they can point to a particular moment where someone sat down and had a cup of coffee with them, or spoke for 5 minutes, gave some insight into their experience. We have David Common of the CBC, the reporter in New York, who's one of our graduates as well, coming next month to talk about how a study abroad experience while he was a student at York gave him his career. And you'll see a video of that on our website if you look. But these are just examples, and we hope that everybody in the audience there, all of you students, will eventually, in fact, be on this side of the table extending a hand to the next generation. So I'm really delighted, especially to our organizer, for arranging all this, and for the department for encouraging it. And especially I want to thank our table members, and for all of you for coming today. So I don't want to hold up the proceedings. I want to hear what everybody has to say. And we will give you a grade. Your professors, you think you're finished, we will give you grades at the end. So thank you very much for coming. Good luck to all.
Okay, our next alum is Irene Thomson, and she is the senior manager in the National Franchise Programs to the Canadian Franchise Handbook. I find it amazing I don't need a microphone. That means you're speaking in earnest or whatever. So, Irene.
Thank you. Thank you for sorry. Before I share with you my experience and the way that humanities has affected my success in banking, I'd like to take a brief moment to thank Dr. Paolucci. Because in 1999, I took my first Humanities Degree program called Roots of Western Culture. And at the time, it was a bad time of my life. My mom just passed away, and I was a recent divorced mother of two, struggling to hold a full-time job. Needless to say, also because of my English was my second language at the time, I failed my first essay on Fairy Queen. So I was very upset, and I went back to a professor and I said, can I do the test, the essay again? And he agreed. He gave me some tips on writing and introduced me to the essay clinic. And I did manage to pass, to get a passing mark on that essay. But after that, I had doubt on my ability to complete the program. But he encouraged me, and he, I believe he said to me something to the effect that you're here because you want to learn, and I challenge you that I will one day attend your graduation. And that really resonated in my mind every time I feel like giving up. And in 2006, I did graduate. Thank you, Dr.
Well done.
So how did humanities affect my success? The critical thinking that I've learned in this degree has actually helped me in the way that I develop business cases in the bank. Prior to my graduation, I've been with the bank for 15 years, but the job that I was doing was just junior level, and I could never get a promotion. Well, after my graduation, the level of confidence that I attained in that discipline has really improved to the point that I started writing persuasive business cases. And those business cases, I received some positive results from senior management, and that only encouraged me to take on more responsibilities. So in 2006, after my graduation, I took a position in the bank as an account manager small business. This is a sales position with an annual sales goal of $7 million a year in a deposit and loans. So how I achieved my goal is, along with the discipline and again the critical thinking and appreciation for many things in life and text, my knowledge has broadened to the point where I became a rounded individual, and I identified the center of influence in my business world. And the center of influence are people that will help you achieve your goal. So in addition to that, I learned the art of networking. Those goes hand in hand because of the level of confidence that I have attained. So after 2 years in the job, with a target of 14 million, because it's 7 million 1 year times 14 million, I met the goal. I not only met the goal, but I had surpassed it by 72%. Those 2 years, I recorded $50 million in loan and deposit with Scotiabank. And when you put that kind of numbers in the book, someone noticed you. So my next job was, I just want to backtrack a little bit. How I attained that goal as well is, prior to graduation, I attended a course in Florence, Italy. It's called Medieval and Renaissance Period. And the beauty that I saw there really opened my eyes, and I become passionately interested in Renaissance period and ancient history. Well, one of the clients in my center of influence actually loved the Renaissance period. So understandably, we have a common interest. We developed a rapport, and I took advantage of that to develop this very good relationship that he actually really gave me a lot of business. To this day, we still have lunch, and he gave me business and tips on how to attain my goal. So that's one of the things that how Humanities Degree has helped me in my career. So in my next job, where I am now, I am a manager of franchising in a national program. So then after that, I got promoted to a senior manager, and where I'm in an area in the commercial banking executive office. And one of the things that I love about my job is, please let me know. One of the things I love about my job, current job now, is I have the ability to change policy pertaining to my business line. So it doesn't mean I'm going to get everything that I want, but I do make proposal and recommendation in the business case, and 80% I get what I want. The 20%, well, So in this current job, I find I always get an invitation to attend business seminars, and I had the opportunity to write an article on government guaranteed loan, which is what I do. I extend business loan to small business. I also do commercial loan. So I did an article, and it was featured in the Canadian Handbook of Franchising. So it only furthered my career. I currently also hire directly people in my group. For those that are interested in banking in Scotiabank, what you can do is, Scotiabank has a career website where you can view various job postings and apply online. So when you get to the interview, please show your confidence and passion. I interview people in my area, and I could always see the people that are passionate about what they do. And that affects how people see you, big time. Do not be afraid of rejection. Apply in 1 or 2 or all kinds of jobs in the career website. And don't be afraid of rejection, because rejection builds tenacity in your character. And reach out to people. Don't be afraid to ask. You'll be surprised at what you get in life just by asking. I did. And many great things in my life were accomplished after I experienced a lot of rejection. So, like I said, learn the art of networking. Be available to other people. You ask their help, but be willing to help them as well. And when you help them in the business world, be sincere, because people see through you. And people wants to do business and wants to deal with people that are sincere and that have the same quality as they do. What else am I going to say? Be sincere. One more thing before I go, establish an excellent work ethics when you land a job, because someone is watching and they will notice you. Be sincere, work hard, and establish a good work ethics. And lastly, engage in activities and experience that you are passionate about, because the rest of your life will follow, including the success in your career. I call it the domino effect. It certainly happened in my life. That's all I have to say. If anyone will be interested in applying at Scotiabank, I'll be around. I have a few business cards, or you can write your email and I will send you the career link. Good luck on your search, and thank you for inviting me.
Written that down. The next person is Jenny Donnell. She is the human resources manager for the McMichael Canadian Art Collection.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I echo the previous comments that the panelists have said about the passion. I am HR manager, so I do a lot of the recruiting. I do all the recruiting at the McMichael Art Gallery. We're in Kleinburg, which is Islington and Major Mac. What I want to say to you in your humanities degree and graduation in the future is two things that will bode you well is the passion, I'll talk about that, but also the compassion that you learn from all your courses. I think that's what I learned the most from my humanities degree. You learn about people, you learn about interactions, you learn about yourself through that, the studies, the diversity. And in today's business world, it's what they could refer to as the EQ. It's not the IQ, it's the emotional intelligence. And that's something that not everybody has. They can be very smart, but they might not understand people, and they might not be able to adjust their behaviors based on other people. I think that's a great skill that you learn in all your courses. And just, you live it, you're living it, you're taking humanities because you love it, so you're believing in it. And take that executive, it's an executive functioning skill that leaders need and is looked for. So strut that stuff in terms of understanding other people. I also think the passion, you're in the arts because of your love of arts. When I hire people, it's those people who say that they want to work there because they love the arts. That's how I got my job when I had my second interview. The CEO asked, why did I want to work at the art gallery? And the reason was because there was, Maria Chapdelaine was on the walls, and because there was exhibits of art that I had studied in an art history course, various things that I had learned. So I couldn't imagine a more flourishing place where I could grow and be in. I got the job. And I do that now in my recruiting. At the interviews, those who speak passionately, they're in. It's not just a job. So really, those are just the two things I want to say to take from your studies. They're things that are valued in today's work world and are noticed, and people do notice that. That's it.
Next, I'd like to introduce Sheldon Frisch, formerly of the Currency Exchange and Currency Trader. He's now the Regional Associate for the National Bank Securities. So, Sheldon, could I ask, do you mind just standing because the people at the back may not?
Sure.
Yeah, you can hear okay?
Everybody here in the back okay? Am I speaking in?
That's stupid, isn't it? I couldn't hear. How do we ask a question?
As long as you can hear, if you can't hear, just put your hands up and I'll speak it. Again, thank you very much, Dan. Thank you to, I guess, the university, the department for inviting me. Thanks to the panelists. Congratulations. I'm going to start by repeating, or part of my presentation will be repeating what my previous colleagues have addressed. So you'll hear a little bit of the same key topics over again, and I think these are your key takeaways to go to from the presentation today. A little correction. The foreign exchange was, I could speak with you about it if anybody's interested afterwards. It was a lifetime ago. I'm going to speak about what I've done now and how my career has progressed in financial services. So I'm an investment sales professional, otherwise known as inside wholesaler with National Bank Securities in the Wealth Management Division of National Bank, Canada's 6th largest Schedule A bank. I've been with National Bank for just a year, since January 2012. Previous to that, I spent just under 7 years at TD in its Wealth Management Division. I've been fortunate to have had career progression since I graduated from York back in 1997 in a few areas of financial services. As Diane had originally said, wholesale corporate foreign exchange, personal banking at a CIBC branch, sales for a small mutual fund company, and really, which led to the career that I've had the last 8 years and change in wealth management, distributing or selling investment products, mutual funds in the marketplace. As an investment sales professional, I worked for the mutual fund side of National Bank Securities, prospecting businesses, building, solidifying relationships, and really selling our investment funds investment fund products to external non-national bank investment advisors and financial planners. I graduated from York, like I said, in '97 with a 4-year honors Bachelor of Arts, Humanities major, History minor, with the skills and the motivation that helped me get to the place I'm now professionally. The critical thinking skills, and to reiterate the key topics that my colleagues have presented, learned from my university career here in writing, speaking, presenting myself professionally, were developed and strengthened during my humanities career here at York. The importance of presenting oneself as a professional through writing, correct speech, correct grammar, ability to multitask, think logically, all tie in to one key aspect that higher managers are looking for. It's critical thinking. The ability to learn, the ability to think for yourself, the ability to present a concept, an argument, a strategy, clearly, logically, and in a concise professional manner. These are the most important takeaway skills that you graduates or you students will be walking away with when you've completed your humanities degree here at York. Truthfully, those are the relevant skills that have helped me to get to where I am today, a successful investment sales professional, talking to you students and invited to present here. Don't be concerned or don't be overly concerned with the technical concepts of whatever industry you guys are going to be going into. Those products, technical components will come through experience and expertise as your passion of, and again reiterate the key point of passion, and knowledge of your industry goes through your career. Your job is to take your most applicable skills mentioned above as a critical thinker and sell it to hiring managers to give you a chance. The rest is up to you. You guys are all bright and willing to put the time in to be successful. That's why you're here today. The easy part will be standing out among your colleagues. The tough part is getting the first opportunity. If you're interested in financial services industry, my sector, like I said, is mutual funds, investment product sales, and distribution. All other areas of financial services, from retail banking in a local bank branch, as my colleague had presented, to investment advising. You all need to continue your education through this Canadian Securities Institute. Without completion of the minimum courses, of the Canadian Securities course or the investment funds course, it'll be tough to get in the door. Hiring managers will look at your humanities degree, favorably, as that's your ability to learn and to think. Your successful completion of introductory securities / investment funds course is their sign. You can take your applicable learning skills cultivated in your career here and apply it to different practical fields within financial services. I also want to recommend you that you complete as many courses in your field as you can now while you're young. It's a lot tougher to have the discipline to study as you're older and get busy with your careers. Your mind and way of thinking now is focused on education, so keep it up while you can. You also want to create and build an online professional profile through LinkedIn and other job search sites. Use LinkedIn as your way to sell yourself professionally. Reason being, hiring managers are now using LinkedIn as their #1 resource when looking into the employment seeking pool, referring back to the same writing, grammatical presentation, and critical thinking skills you cultivated here in your humanities program will garner you the second look by hiring managers and hopefully the chance to impress them directly through the interview. Just to give you an example of how relevant LinkedIn is to today's professionals, our firm has started a corporate initiative with our clients as to where a professional and complete LinkedIn profile can help them take their business forward in today's social media marketplace. These are skills that you students are at the forefront of and will continue to develop as you go through your employment careers. I brought along some materials related to introductory courses through the Canadian Securities Institute, along with my business cards, and some takeaways or some swag for my department. So for those of you who are interested, please come up, take the materials, and please feel free to pull me aside and ask questions. It's my pleasure to help you all. Best of luck to you in your career endeavors. Thank you for allowing me to present myself, my industry, and a little insight as to you all graduates, pardon me, as you continue your studies here at York and commence your working life. Congrats and best of luck to you all. And thank you again to the panelists.
Next, I'd like to introduce another alum, Mirella Nestor. She was the manager of the Career Center for the Donnell School of Business at the University of Toronto. She is now the manager of the Career development.
Professional
Yes?
development.
At the Faculty of Education right here at York. And I think it'd be great she taught.
Yeah, somewhere along the road I did, yeah.
So the degree has legs.
I want to start off by asking, how many of you know what you're going to be when you grow up? Put your hand up if you know. You know what? I'm exactly like you, and I'm almost 60. I still don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up, and I hope I never find out, because the exploration, the discovery is what it's all about. I was part of I was the first generation in my family to go to university. And I switched my focus here at York from French and studying Italian to humanities, because I discovered very quickly that I needed to understand the cultural currency of North America. I needed to understand how to fit into the culture, how to decipher the cultural code. Fairy tales, folk tales, nursery rhymes, places, people, history, great literature of the world. I knew I needed to educate my imagination. I needed to understand the great code, the story of the eternal return, all of that kind of stuff, the coded language that would help me as an ESL speaker and as the first generation of Canadian immigrant parents, how to connect with everyone else around me. So it's all about, for me, about the humanities were about making those human connections with others. So I have to also state right off the top, I'm one of those probably old-fashioned people that really do believe that university is the place for an undergrad liberal arts education. I'm a firm believer in that. That if you want a job or a career, it comes later. You can always go back to a community college and do a post-diploma program. You can go on and do a professional master's. You can go on and take your volunteer work and make that into a career. You can go off to a professional school. You can go into a law school. All of that, but the liberal arts education is about gaining insight, wisdom, courage, self-awareness to connect with others, connect with your family, your social network, the working world, the community, the country, and globally. In my way of thinking, if any of you have read E.M. Forster's Howard's End, only connect. I mean, that's the notion about taking the understanding of the prosaic and passion of the artistic and connecting the two and making inroads in dealing with people. The other thing I have to also say is that as a humanities grad, I had no map and no guidepost. There is no map or guidepost for us humanities grads. I mean, if we were graduating as a doctor, as a lawyer, as an accountant, a teacher, or some other professional, we'd know what we knew what we would have to do in elementary school, we knew what we would have to do in high school, and we knew what we'd have to do once we were in university and the courses we'd have to take. And if you want to go into an account, you have to do all of these kinds of courses, and it's clearly laid out. Well, we humanities grads don't have a map. We don't know what we're going to do. We end up like the character in the poem by W.H. Auden, where we're left without a map or a signpost. We're looking for a smart profession which encourages shallow breathing and helps us grow rich. I mean, but we don't have the map to get there. So. What I also want us to be aware of is that as part of humanities grad, it's important that we define what the brass ring means for each of us. We have to define success in our own terms and in our own way. I don't think it should be described or prescribed by what society values as success. I think that we already have everything that we need in order to face the future. And the two most important things, and things that have been mentioned already, passion and courage. And you have to find your passion, get in touch with what your gut is, what your intuition tells you, what your authentic self tells you. And you have to have the courage to forge a path beyond what the norms of society tells you. Even what your parents might say is the the standard profession that you should have, perhaps what your peer group is telling you, maybe what there might be family obligations, parental pressures, financial hardships. I mean, those are things to consider, but at the bottom line, it is about finding your passion. And find your passion and have the courage to embrace the fear and do it anyway. Reflect on your experiences. Do some critical thinking. It's all about the getting of wisdom. And believe that help is out there. There's extended family, there's friends, there's supportive people in your network, government agencies, job finding clubs, career centers, alumni. There's a network of connections through your own social media, government support agencies. There might even be a religious or spiritual group that you belong to, cultural community. All of those are out there. Help is there. And also, if you're like me, you weren't probably born with a fairy godmother that brought you a special gift. And you know those types. They're math geniuses. They're piano wizards. They can sing like a nightingale. I wasn't born with any of those special gifts. No fairy godmother blessed me. So I had to figure it out for myself. And so you are there without that map. Just believe that as you're going through, there is a notion of sort of impermanence. Things will change and will continue to change. And that's why I say, you don't know. I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up, because I know that as I grow, I will change as I evolve. And it's okay to do that. It's all part of the journey. I started out as a dental receptionist when I graduated from York, because I'd had that job as a survival job when I was going through and paying my way through school. I did that in the summer out of university, and then I realized, wait a minute, maybe I could be a teacher, because that's what my mother said was probably the only option available to me. Very narrow thinking, and so that was the role model. Became a teacher. I taught for 9 years, but you know what? After my second year of teaching, I realized, wait a minute, I don't really like this. I started to do career searching after 2 years of teaching, and I've been career searching ever since. I went to teachers college, and as I said, but after 2 years, taught for 9 years, taught French as a second language, taught the core curriculum at the elementary school level, then had children, stayed home for a couple of years, and then I thought, what the heck else am I going to do with myself? Realized that I wanted to do something different, went into teaching adults basic literacy and numeracy, teaching adult ESL students literacy and numeracy in English when they didn't even know it in their own language how to read and write. Let me tell you, those were rewarding careers. From there, I went through a period of very intense self-searching about what else I was going to do with my life. I thought about library science, HR management, thought about being a psychologist or a counselor in community settings, perhaps working in an employee assistance program kind of concern or corporation. I thought about a career in training and development in the corporate world. And then I finally decided in the broad area of educational administration, went to Seneca College for a year because, you know what, I didn't know how to use a computer. That was, like, I'm really ancient. I'm sure you've figured that out already. Hadn't figured out how to use a computer. Went back, did a year of career training, how to use Excel, spreadsheets, how to do accounting, how to write business letters, all that kind of stuff. And then tried my hand at a private vocational school. My very first job after graduating from Seneca, I did recruitment and sales for a private vocational school. And you know what? I was fired within the first month. Obviously, don't have a career in sales. So, sorry, you guys do, I don't. I'm way too honest. My folks where I work right now say I'm way too transparent. Anyway, then went to work at a social service agency in Keswick as an employment case manager, became an employment career specialist in a private vocational school, and then for 10 years worked at U of T. Yes, I did work as a manager in the Career Center with MBA students, helping them sort their way through their business career. Then did executive education at Rotman, helped corporate folks who want to come back and learn more do more business education. And then from there, came all the way back to York after leaving it so many years ago, and now I'm back at York, and I am the manager of professional development in the Faculty of Education. Interesting how I'm back in education and I'm back at York. But anyway, that's my career. If you want to talk to me about any of that stuff, about any of my beliefs around how you look for a career and what you do, happy to help. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Robert Gould. He's the Director of Account Management for Aspiria.
Testing. Does it work? Excellent. How many of you do know what you want to do when you grow up? I didn't see how many hands were raised. Right. Excellent. Well, I can certainly relate. Stand up, sorry, yes. You might see my knees shake. I get a little bit nervous in public speaking. I don't know how I can differentiate my words of wisdom to you from what the esteemed panel has said. But listening to everybody, coming back to the campus, seeing a couple of my former professors has been wonderful for me. And it also harkens me back to a time where you might find yourselves, and I was really struggling. I faced a lot of negative comments about my choice of major. A lot of my peers knew that they were going to be doctors, they knew that they were going to be lawyers, they knew they were going to be accountants. But I chose a humanities degree coupled with a history degree. And my parents also fed some of that negativity. What on earth are you going to do with that? And I didn't know. Fourth year, oh, I should say fifth year. I did a 4-year degree, but it took me 5 years. I didn't know what I was doing. And I was sitting at the restaurant where I was working to help pay my tuition after a shift and talking to some other waiters and bartenders, having a pint. And someone made it really clear to me, and those words have stayed with me. Do what you like. And at that point, I liked golf. So, I wasn't very good at it, but I took the steps to enroll at Humber College after I finished my double bachelor's degree with history and humanities. I did a 1-year business diploma at Humber College for golf course management. Finished that, and now what? I didn't know anybody in the golf industry here. My playing ability was horrendous, so I couldn't join the PGA anytime soon. I had a friend who was working overseas in Thailand, and he said, come on out. So I said, yeah, I could use a vacation, 6 years of studying, I deserve it. My 2-month vacation ended up into 12 years of different work experiences, different experiences with a different culture, people, language, and I honestly believe that my humanities experience at York University equipped me to be successful. Now, how you measure success, I think that's a very individual thing. For me, I was able to survive. I was able to learn a new language without sitting in a classroom. I learned how to embrace a culture completely different from my own. I taught in international schools. I worked in the golf course industry. I managed golf courses. I was managing a staff of over 300 people at one point, of whom 2 spoke English. So I had no choice but to learn how to speak Thai, and I did. And I honestly believe, again, that the skills that I was taught here at York enabled me to do that. The next chapter after those 12 years, I was married, I was divorced, got married again. This time I inherited 3 children with that second marriage, and very soon after we added a 4th. And it was at that point that my wife and I decided, you know what, we should probably move back to Canada. Things were getting a little bit hairy in Thailand politically. A lot of violence was going on. And we decided to move to Canada. My wife is a Thai national. She does not speak English as her first language. And once again, my parents said the same thing to me. What on earth are you going to do? But we did it. We moved to Canada just over 3 years ago. And I started another career. As was announced, I am the Director of Account Management for an EAP company, which stands for Employee Assistance Programs. I deal with a lot of HR people. And again, the skills that I learned here, I've been able to transfer from teaching into running golf courses, into consulting on golf and leisure properties throughout Southeast Asia, to now a completely different field. And I echo all the sentiments of the people who have spoken before me about being passionate, being sincere, being able to engage not only with people, but with text. And those are the skills that I think have allowed me to garner some level of success in my many different careers. So like you, Mirella, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm enjoying the ride right now, and I'm very curious as to what's around the next corner. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
And obviously, you don't have to worry because you have a humanities degree.
Really?
Oh yeah, I never worried once.
Next, I'd like to introduce the favorite professor of two of the panels, Dr. Peter Paolucci. He's an entrepreneur as well as a professor of English and taught in humanities for decades. And he's going to show you why he's everybody's favorite professor.
Thanks, Ida. Well, first of all, congratulations to all of you for coming to this session. I think it's very important that you take active steps to ask yourself difficult questions, and kudos to you for raising the point about small minds that throw you negativity. I call it cobwebs. It doesn't cripple you, but cobwebs get in your face, they distract you, they take you away from your main focus. Cobwebs, just wipe them away and do what you're going to do. From my vantage point, at 60 years of age, my career looks pretty cool, I have to say. It's pretty amazing. I teach in the English department. My specialty is qualitative and quantitative analysis of language. I use computers to analyze Shakespeare. I'm in a band. I've been in a band since 1967 when I first picked up a bass guitar. I did it full-time for 3 or 4 years. Had a lot of fun out west. My band just produced our first CD. I run a company called We're in Canada. We help people get found on the internet. And these look like diverse career paths. I've done a lot of technical training, Unix programming. In fact, for a few years here, I taught computer programmers how to design interfaces that human beings can actually use. So from 60 years of age, it looks pretty varied and pretty diverse. The price I paid to get here was horrendous. Horrendous. Because my background is basically music and literature. And if anyone you think is going to be programmed not to succeed in this world, it would be somebody who likes to read books and make music. And I got into English because I had great high school teachers, and I got into music because my family was musical, and I found it very therapeutic. And in my career, it's been characterized by what I would call convergence and divergence, because I've been juggling so many different things all my life. I never had a clean trajectory. And somebody on the panel mentioned that, you know, when you come out of law school, for example, it's a pretty straight line. My career path looks like a dog's breakfast. Everything that I did, or that I wanted to achieve, turned to crap. My plans failed. Things aborted. Doors were closed on me. Anything that happened to me that was good, it's not all bad, but I'm saying anything that came my way, I tripped over, I backed into it, I stumbled on it. I did not plan to be where I am today. It came to me. But a couple of interesting things happened on the way, and this is what I want to talk about a little bit this afternoon. I'm at a point in my life now where I have the experience, I can actually start to theorize and make sense of what happened to me in my career. And the book that did it for me is this book called Outliers. Does anyone know this book? You need to buy this book. Outliers is very interesting. Chapter 2 of this book, he basically makes the argument that something like 55 to 60% of the top level hockey players in North America were born in January or February or March.
Yeah.
It is not accidental. There are structural forces at work in our lives that have to do with demographics, birth, population, social change, and we come along as individuals and step into this. That should not depress you, but that structure will actually close off a lot of things to you because of, literally because of the year in which you were born. And it's a very interesting theory, and I'm going to give you one example that happened to me because in the early 80s when I came to York, I mean, my life doesn't fit any patterns. It took me over 30 years to get my degrees. I didn't get my PhD until I was almost 50 years of age. I was on the margins of the academy for many years, but in the 1980s when I came here, we were desperate. York was desperate for teaching assistants. You couldn't get people to teach. And so I came in and I was in the music business selling guitars, and that sort of crashed, and I came over here and I was looking for a little more work at York, and somebody said to me, you know, there's a course in social science called Music and Society. I do music. I could teach that course. When I talked to the course director, guess what? They needed someone to teach the lyric and the poetry and the meter of music. Hallelujah, right into my lap. I couldn't believe it. And that's what I talk about convergence. Do you understand this notion of disparate things in your lives? And most of you have more than one thing that you do. And part of my message to you today is if you're that kind of person, don't narrow yourself. Keep doing all those diverse things that you do. I taught, in my career at this university, I've taught in 9 different departments. How is that possible? It's possible because in the 80s, they were desperate to get people. Somebody has to take this tutorial in social science at 8:30 in the morning, Monday morning. I'll do it. I'll do it because I'm desperate, because I'm not working anywhere else. Somebody has to take this tutorial on Friday afternoon with Professor X who nobody likes. I'll do it. And those, I don't know how I did it at the time. All I can tell you is I was alert enough to recognize an opportunity when it came to me. Does this make sense? That you need to be vigilant for things that come to you. Yes, you have to try to make your own plans. Yes, you have to try to set your direction. I really did try to set my direction. None of it ever worked. But the way I managed my career was when things came right floating by under my nose, I grabbed it. So be patient. Keep doing what you do. There's an interesting bit of research now also that says that to get expertise in anything, you need 10,000 hours. Yes. If you do the math, that's full-time, every weekday for 1 year. And there's a wonderful book by Barry Leviton called This Is Your Brain on Music. What he shows is that musicians who have got to 10,000 hours actually physically grow a membrane that crosses the left and right side of the brain. It's only for musicians. It's really cool. How does that happen? It shows you that if you get your 10,000 hours on anything, you get expertise. So build your 10,000 hours. And if you happen to be like me, who can't make up my mind whether I want to do literature or music or technology, I actually had to get my 10,000 hours in all of those things. And that's a serious investment of time and energy. So I've got a quick summation here of my suggestions. Number 1, create your own opportunities. Try to make it happen. If you're going to go into a job interview, research the company, find out what's going on with the company. Don't send, by the way, I'm sure the panel will agree with me, do not send a letter to someone saying, to whom it may concern, I'm very interested in your organization. As soon as you get that letter, it's a delete. To whom are you speaking? What is the name of the organization? What do you bring to the organization? Number 2, be vigilant for opportunities. Hamlet says, if it be not now, it will be tomorrow. If it be not tomorrow, the time will come. It will come to you if you don't come to it. Number 3, keep doing what you do. Number 4, get your 10,000 hours. Number 5, recognize the limits and advantages of your time and place. I would not be at this institution today if it wasn't for those 9 different departments that I had to teach across in my early years. And that was a sheer function of dumb luck. I happen to be here at that time in York's history when that gap was there. That gap is not there anymore. Do you understand? I walked into the gap, and I didn't know at the time that it was a structural gap that would disappear, that would close by the early 1990s. So be aware of your environment. Be aware of the structure and the demographics on what's going on. Number 6, be patient. Number 7, be consistent over time. Keep doing what you're doing. And the most important piece of advice I have to you is learn to enjoy the process, not to seek the goal. The harder you try for the goal, it's like the golf swing, if I may talk golf for a moment. The harder you try to hit that ball, the less successful you're going to be. The zen of golf is swing the club and let the ball be hit. Stay on the process. I know you need a degree. I know you need money. I know you have to live. If you're in it to get money, if you're in education to get money and get a job and be 100% successful, you might get there. You might not. Love the process, and you will succeed. Good luck to you all.
Next, I'd like to introduce Dina Singh. She is Human Resources for State Farm Insurance.
I guess I have to stand up. Hi everyone, my name is Dina. I work for State Farm Insurance, and I'm a Human Resources recruiter there. And for myself, I am the non-alumni here of the panel, so I'm very welcome to be here amongst the esteemed panel. And more speaking from my experience with my employer and more from an employer perspective. So for myself, my story is that I guess March will be 18 years that I've been with the organization. And one of the reasons I joined them was for the opportunity to learn and grow with them. And I've definitely had that. I call myself a poster child for a promote from within environment, because that really is a great benefit and opportunity to our employees, because we look internally first before going externally. And through that, I've had several careers. I started out entry level in our auto claims side of the business, and then moved in to the head office to our life underwriting department. I worked in our agency services side of the business. And then I spent majority of my career, about 8 years, in learning and development, and then have now been in HR. In April will be 5 years that I've been recruiting. So one organization, having several careers, very exciting, and there's still opportunity to learn and grow, and I can still figure out what I want to grow up and be too, because I can have numerous careers. So as I kind of go through right now, I've been thinking that there's a lot of learning where I'm at, and I'm really enjoying it, so I don't have any aspirations yet or thinking about anything else. But as you've heard from the panel, a lot of the skills that you're learning are transferable. And from our perspective, with our Promote From Within environment, throughout the year, we recruit for entry-level positions in our claims and underwriting areas, because they are the heart and meat of our business. And so from an underwriting standpoint, we recruit for underwriters, and from a claims standpoint, it's claim representatives. So from the underwriting standpoint, definitely those analytical skills come into play, and a lot of the skills that you're learning and utilizing here through your program, you can transfer that out into the real world. Same perspective from the claim rep side of things, very customer service oriented. On the underwriting side, it's more internal customers, we'll say, and then from the claim rep side, it's external customers. And so, like the panel has shared, it's really kind of finding your passion and learning things. But most coming out of school either had jobs that you know, were the way that they were making money to get through school and survive through that. But those experiences are transferable. So from our perspective, you know, the customer service oriented jobs, things like that, that people are bringing to, those skills that they're bringing to the table. So you don't have to go to school for insurance to be in an insurance company. And also, from the perspective of, you know, we don't only have claims and underwriting departments, we have other general departments, we have a marketing department, as I mentioned, our agency services side, human resources, and it goes on the list. We have management planning and information area. So there's a lot underneath the roof. And so people can kind of come in through these entry-level positions and grow and develop with the company and kind of figure out what they want to do. And advice that I give to people like yourselves, new grads that I see, I always tell them, and I had to have it 18 years ago, is having patience and understanding, because within our organization, because of the promote from within, our turnover rate is about 7% enterprise-wide. We're a North American company, so people don't leave State Farm. They stay, which is a great thing, and it's been nice through the upheavals that have gone on through the economy. We don't realize, but insurance is in everything that you do. You know, this building is insured, the bus that you might have took to come to school, the car that you drove in, your home. Insurance is involved in everything, and people don't really think about that and how much it is in everything that we do in our daily lives. And so, as I mentioned, the transferable skills, you know, the competencies that we're looking for, of course, customer service, that's our business. But of course, strong communication skills, both verbal and written, the teamwork skills, leadership skills, the potential for people to develop and grow with the company. Most anyone, I would say 99.9% of people that you ask at State Farm, if you know they thought they would be working for an insurance company, not any one of them. Most of them, new grads, came out of school, joined the organization, and have been there. Some of them have grown and developed with us, either not having degrees, coming in and the company supports that and completing a degree, or coming in and completing a second degree with us and going on maybe to do their master's. So there's a lot of growth opportunity. And from the perspective of your degree, so the analytical skills, the speculative skills, the critical thinking skills, all of that is relative in our world. And the ability to work independently, the experience conducting research and analysis, all of these skills are transferable in our world and utilized on a daily basis in the underwriter role, for example. Also, you can further hone in on these skills through jobs in the customer service environment, library, museum, we've heard some things around that, a contributing writer for a blog or a website, things like that. But definitely going on to improve solid communication and interpersonal skills, the ability to multitask and creativity, usually also accompanying studies and work in this area. So your degree definitely is transferable, even in insurance. And like for myself, as I've shared my career path, which I didn't know what I wanted to do when I joined the organization. I just knew the opportunity was there to learn and grow, and I've definitely done that. And for myself, it was the same thing. Some things have kind of been there, but there were people that took notice and said, hey, Dina, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? Took that and thought, okay, they see something in me, let's work with this. So, you know, at State Farm, we have mentoring opportunities and developmental opportunities. So we grow our talent and we grow our people. So that if my job isn't here today, hopefully these skills that I have are transferable somewhere else in the organization, which I can definitely appreciate. And one other thing that I would like to share with you is the Insurance Institute of Canada is the governing body for the education of the Chartered Insurance Professional, which is a 10-course designation program, which allows people in our industry to be known as professionals when they complete that. The Insurance Institute has a website called the Career Connections. And even though it's not, even from an insurance standpoint, it's really interesting to look because you can see, and it talks about different degrees, humanities and all, and how that's relative and what kind of jobs you may look at. And they have a lot of information on that website, so I definitely recommend you looking into that. Even on our website, we have a lot of information learning about the insurance industry. So I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you. I brought some stuff, yes, for some information.
So then after, Dina brought brochures, and we also have a handout. We've gone through and listed 14 plus fields that people who graduated from this department went into, and under each field are all the different jobs that they did. So you'll get that after as well. Last, certainly not least, is Carolyn Steele. She's an alumni too. She is a coordinator with the Career Center. She's doing her doctorate right now in English while working full-time. University employment, I wanted to say, remember that. You don't have to be a professor. You have no idea how many alum and grads we have all over the university, other universities doing jobs in many areas. That'll be on the sheet. So, Carolyn, our expert, will next speak.
Well, welcome all. So, if you had to pick out one word you've heard over and over and over again for the last 2 hours, what word would it be?
Passion.
Thank you. Passion. Passion is a two-edged sword, though, isn't it? There's a passion where you really love something, and what's the other passion?
That you hate it.
Oh my God, yeah. I work at the Career Center, and I spend a lot of time, particularly with PhDs, talking about what they could do if they can't follow their passion, which is to be professors. And right now, I don't know if you know, the job market in academia is pretty bleak, so we have a lot of very bright, very talented people not too sure what it is they're going to do with themselves. What do I do if I can't follow my passion? Well, here's the thing. The rhetoric in the career field has been very much about follow your passion, which presupposes that passion exists and you follow it, yes? How many people know for sure what their passions are right now? Like, really? Really? Can you list 5 passions in your life? Probably not. How are you going to follow something that does not seem to exist? Okay? Some people do have passions that do exist. If I was going to give you one word of advice about that, though, don't wait until somebody pays you to follow them. Honestly, if you love doing something, go do it. Just do it. You may not get paid for it, maybe that's not how you earn your living, but it'll be a really critical part of your life. It'll make your life worth living. There's a whole pile of artists who choose not to earn their living through their art, because that gives them the creative freedom, the artistic freedom to do the kind of art they want to do, not the kind of art that'll sell. When I started my career and got into the university, in a career center, my goodness, my degrees were like English. Like, how did I land up here? And if anyone had ever said career advisor, I had never met a career advisor. I'd never been in a career center. I had no idea what they are. But I was motivated by passion, the other kind of passion. In my experience, doing my doctorate in the 90s, which was one of those super gloomy times to be doing the doctorate, that's when I realized there was no career support for PhDs in the university, period. That made me passionate. Then I found every PhD granting university in the country to find out what career support existed for the PhDs there. Nada. 2 workshops in the entire country. You gotta get, there were no jobs in the 1990s. We're producing all these PhDs, incredibly talented, smart people with no work. Yeah, I was getting pretty passionate. Okay. So I started bitching and complaining. And you know when you bump into people you haven't seen for a while and they say, so how's it going, what's new? My new mantra. Did you know that York doesn't provide career support for PhDs? That's appalling, I can't believe this is true. That became what I started saying. And then finally I said it to somebody and they said, I know a book you should read. And I read this book, it was called Careers Outside the Ivory Tower. Awesome book. The woman who wrote it was the head of the Career Center at Harvard. Now, the difference between someone complaining and saying, you know what, I have an obstacle, I got a problem, I don't know anyone in the field, I don't have the right education, I don't have the right training. No. The problem is when you don't do anything. Okay? In this case, I didn't know anyone in the field, but I knew this book. And I knew this woman's name, and I could get on the website and I could see where Harvard was. I emailed her. Margaret, just read your book. It's awesome. We don't do this in Canada. Where do I learn more? She put me in touch with friends of hers who happened to, one was the head of the Career Center at Yale, the other one was the head of the Career Center at MIT, and for the next 2 years they became my email mentors. And in 2 years I went from knowing nothing other than the fact there was no career support for me, to knowing more about what the unique career development needs were of PhDs, probably more so than most people in Canada at that time, which landed me a contract position at HRDC. Not because I was an expert, I just happened to know more about it than they did. Okay? And that contract enabled me to come back to Europe and say, a federal agency has hired me as an expert. We need to do something about this here. And they said, yeah, you're right. We have no idea what their needs are. Come in and do a needs assessment. Quite often, people are going to ask you to do things you don't actually know how to do.
Hallelujah.
You know what? Is that so different than showing up for your Nat Sci class? or the first time you have to take stats? Or any of that other stuff you didn't know how to do before? One of the key things you've learned how to do here is to learn and to teach yourself things that you don't know. And in a dynamic world, if there's one skill you need, it would be that one. So I went out, spent the weekend, learned how to do needs assessments. Lo and behold, not so different than what I've been doing for the last 2 years. That gets me a one-day contract. Okay? Then they need somebody to help with resume critiques, English training. Oh yeah, and that business and technical writing degree, diploma I picked up along the way because I thought it just might be handy. Needed doing that, but it gave me the gumption to go do this. That bumped me up to 3 days a week. Then I got curious about this career development thing. You know, psych? Yeah, not so much. I don't do multiple choice, and the paradigm was always sort of sketchy to me. So I never took psych courses. But this career development theory stuff was grounded in constructivism. Constructivism, I knew from the work that I had done, and that made me curious. So I started taking a theory course at night. All of a sudden, and this is where a few people have mentioned the unexpected happened, an opportunity opened up. Somebody didn't come back from a mat leave just when they needed people to do workshops. I'd been teaching at the university for 7 years by this point. I'd been working in the Career Center for 6 months by this point. I had been taking theory courses at night. Right person, right time. Heavens opened. Now here's the thing about stuff like that happening. It's not like a bolt out of lightning, and it's great if it happens, and it sucks if it doesn't. It happens to everybody all the time. The difference is some people are prepared to take advantage of it. Okay? You take the initiative to go out and get that skill. You take the initiative to go and hunt down, where's that darn book that'll teach me about that, and phone up the person and ask about it and foster those relationships. And then when the opportunity happens, you're ready for it. Okay? Even in a university. University is a unionized environment, so there's not a lot of wiggle room on how you get a job in a university. Unionized environments are pretty unforgiving in that respect. But you pick up contracts, you talk to people, you are curious, you ask questions. Work study is a great way to start getting your feet wet in a university. I personally know 2 or 3 work study students that came to the Career Center, worked with us for a few years, and are now full-time employees at the university. Not all the staff that works in the university are secretaries. Many are, but many are not. We have 18 people in our center that are not secretaries and do a wide range of activities. One of the people that I was talking about who was a work study student is now in charge of student orientation. Works with students, just like a full-time permanent Frisch leader. Like, how awesome is that? Another person does new media over in Glendon. She came through our center too. There's all sorts of very, very cool things that happen at universities. And Toronto's one of those cities with like 4 universities, 5, 6 community colleges, and numerous private colleges, i.e. there's no shortage of educational outlets here. And yes, there are teachers, and they're the bread and butter, the meat and potatoes, the whatever, of the university. They don't operate in a silo. They are supported by a huge network of people doing all sorts of things. And there's all sorts of really interesting possibilities there. I knew in my life, I would never be touched, moved, and inspired by profit. That's just not the thing that does it for me. And for me, I have to buy into whatever the mandate is of my context. If I'm not into that, I'm never going to be on the same page as them. So universities, education work for me because I do buy into the value of that. For me, my career had to have a research base. There needed to be someplace where I could continue to do research. And both career development and my second job as contract faculty had that research base. So it's the best of both worlds. I Peter, like many of the others, I wear many hats. No matter how passionate it is I am about anything, I don't want to do it for 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours a week for the rest of my life. In a perfect world, I have 3 part-time jobs. But it's just easier this way. I get free tuition this way. That's kind of fun. When you're a learning junkie, when you love to learn, that's the thing you like to do, why would you want to work anywhere else? This is where people are totally invested in that. So, let me put on the other hat just for a moment. The Career Center. We do have one. Did you know that? I was here 8 years before I found it. It wasn't until I went and stormed in there and said, okay, so what do you do with PhDs? I said, PhD in English. And they said, we don't deal with PhD. It took me 8 years to find it. Okay? We are no more visible now than we were then. This was way back in the 1993. We are now second floor up above. I guarantee you will never accidentally walk by this place. You see, it's sort of like this embodied experiential metaphor for life. You know, discovering your career path begins with discovering the career center. You get that far, you're on your way. This is the thing. Working.ca/careers. We try to keep as much on there as we possibly can. We're bringing in employers all the time to have conversations with you. Like 18 panels on all different topics, where alumni and HR folks from a wide range of fields are here, and they're here for that base time. They want to talk to people. Because on paper, it doesn't matter. On paper, you are anonymous. Okay? You are anonymous. They can't tell the difference between you and you and you. In a pile of 500, you're not going to stick out. But they come and talk to you, they shake your hand, they get a sense of where you are in your life, what you're looking for in your life. They can see, hey, are you actually grown up yet? Are you still a teenager? That's why they come on. It gives them something to select one person over another other than that piece of paper. You want people to get to know you, to see what you need, you're interesting. In fact, the only really interesting thing about you is that it's you. And resumes can kind of disguise that. So take the time to make the time to do this. This stuff is where the doors start opening. This is where those random acts of, oh my God, do you believe this? Happen. This is where you meet those people that 2 years, 3 years, 4 years make all the difference. I still have lunch once a year with a guy who taught me English in 1987. We just get together like, half of you guys weren't even born there. You know, these are the anchors in your life, right? But the onus is on you to develop that. We try to make it easy by getting you in contact with people that you would normally never get in contact with. And if you're not hooked into that resource, you're losing out on that opportunity. Incidentally, you have access to all of this for up to 2 years after you were last registered as a student. So this doesn't end when you graduate. Mainly because most people just get on the radar scope until they're about to graduate. So if you're sort of at that place, don't worry, you haven't missed the boat. You're pretty well on track there. But hook into the resources around you. You're part of a really large university, and there's a ton of opportunity as a result of that. There's only opportunity if you reach out and grab it. Okay? So you have access to a whole range of people over the next little while now to come up and chit-chat with and get a sense and ask questions about what they talked about and how that converges with what you've been thinking about. And at the end of this, you might be a little more clear of things that you may want to do or may not want to do. That may be even more clear. But you also now know about the Career Center. And I invite you to take advantage of that.
That's good.
Okay? So thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. I've been thinking, as a student of patterns, there's a leitmotif here. It sounds as if almost all of us stumbled into our jobs. So that's the kind of theme, including me. Never thought of being a professor. Wanted to be a neurosurgeon. Found out I'm afraid of death and dying. So that's so I then wanted to do everything. There was nothing I wasn't interested in. And that word passion, the passion for the infinite possibilities of life take you everywhere. I know it's not, well, I think it's crude to call passion marketable, but it is. You've heard that. I'll give you a short story. So when I chose English for my first degrees, I thought you had to know everything there was to know in the entire world to be found in literature. And I've never changed my mind on that. Never. Novels have been created on Einstein's time-space continuum, Pynchon's gravity's rainbow, Durrell's Alexandrian quartet. Einstein's time-space continuum. There is nothing. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. I shouldn't say that, I guess, but you know, it's there. It's life. One of the things when we talk about passion isn't just preparation. And passion isn't about a specific thing. It's about a spirit. And I'll just give you a brief example. One of the most important things that anybody ever said to me was a man phoned me. He owned a company. He was a CEO. And he said to me that he had heard about me and he wanted to hire me to do some research because he had to go give 2 conference papers. So I said, well, if you've heard about me, I teach English and humanities. This is an energy company. You know, what do I know about soil in Greenland or life in Antarctica? And I said, so why don't you get a geologist or, you know, one of those people, whoever does energy, I don't know. And he said, no, I want you. And he said, you know how to research, don't you? And I said, yes. He said, then you can do anything. Aside from the fact he was going to pay me quite a bit, I thought that was it. Is he right? I know MLA is the Bible of literature people, but is he right? So off I went. I said, I'm going to do this. Found the right place in the library, started, okay, I'm on a roll now. See all this stuff that says energy, you know, and so on. And then I started. And then what happened is, it all kicked in. Passion is also the passion to learn. Passion to learn anything, in a way. The curiosity of the mind. The world of the mind and the imagination. And started doing all those things that kicked in right away. It wasn't good enough. My eyes would look at print. I'm a real addict for print. And looking at it, thinking, oh, that argument does this does that. And then I started writing it up and giving it to this man who was thrilled. And I thought, this is incredible. Because if you listen to the panel, look at all the different things that they've done. And as I say, Peter and I were here, we're professors, but we did other things and do other things. And it's about, really, you've only got one life to live. You've got to live it for you. And it's not about being silly or naive. You can make something of a life, a fulfilling life. Use your degree. Use it for what, you know, interests you. Take courses you like. You know, Robert took Peter's course in Gothic literature. There's so many things. You only have one chance. And as Carolyn says, you've got a career center that allows you to come back here up to 2 years after you graduate. And also she told me something, I think it was you, Carolyn, very interesting. That do you know that they have a setup whereby an alumni will go out with you for lunch if you're interested in, is that right, Carolyn?
Yeah, I had flyers for
yeah,
that over
isn't
there.
that incredible?
Somebody made a
That you could have an alumni who's successful in that field and they will take you to lunch. And you can talk to that person. You can go beyond the slush pot. That's what I want to say. This is about going beyond the slush pot. You can explore, do the things that you do while you're getting your degree. And those skills are skills for life. They are never going to leave you. Never. Now, I just want to thank the panel, obviously, so much for giving me your time. It's been all afternoon. These people took off work. They came up to York. The gods were with us. It's going to be Friday. That's how life works. I want to also thank the people in the Humanities Department who helped Irene and I, Savvy, and also Rita, who's been back at the door, the Master's Office for Vanier. Also, Marty, the chair, and Dean Singer for coming. Several people at the Career Center. Carolyn, of course, the director, Julie Raymar, and Hema Nair, who is here as well. You can talk to her. Very importantly as well, James Allen, who is a senior director for alumni relations. and Connie and Dagmar in alumni relations who helped us so much. I hope I'm not leaving anybody out. As I said, we have brochures, we have handouts, we have food. I thought that it might, you can tell me because you also have freedom and will. Instead of having group questions of the panel, would it be more fruitful to mingle so that you can come up individually and talk to all these different people who are here? And also, Hema, where are you? Hema's at the back Career Center too. So you have a lot of people you can come and individually ask questions to. And I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else. Oh.
Yeah!